Welcome to this presentation on sustainability through 20 years of media action evaluation in the framework of the IAMCR 2021 online conference. This presentation will introduce you to the first results of a PhD research within the MIDAS 21 doctoral program based in Dortmund in Germany. This is still a work in progress. My research questions are directly connected to this maybe catch-all concept, how donors and media action implementers have constructed the discourse on sustainability in the sector over the last 20 years. My aim is to then compare this view from above, so to speak, with a vision from the ground by the radio makers in two specific fields, Uganda and the DRC. As far as my methodology is concerned, I refer to the work of Jessica Noske Turner and her idea to rethink media action through evaluation. My theoretical framework is discourse theory. This meta-evaluation in particular is an analysis of the social construct of sustainability in the media action sector, and it resorts to the idea that sustainability may be a so-called floating signifier, a signifier with no fixed signified. So different discourses try to interpret this floating signifier in order to gain hegemony. I also keep in mind a decolonial approach, as Chumbu and Ikani, among others, invite us to, precisely because the very construct of sustainability shows a north-south presumption. My corpus includes 287 different evaluations between 1999 and 2019 in the very broad sense of what an evaluation can be. It does include, for example, preliminary studies, midterm reviews, both internal and external final evaluation, and what I called cross-cutting studies on a country or a specific topic, for example. I've used different sources to fit this corpus, mainly the Catholic Media Council, whose database is probably one of the most consistent, and Communit, the Communication Initiative Network. More and more material is also available online with e-government initiatives, and I also referred to other sources, including documents that I've been entrusted with, some of them not been made public, or material I found on media action organizations' websites. One of my main concern was the representativeness of this sample. I tried to collect all the project budgets that amount to $1.8 billion during the period, or 31 million per year. I replaced the missing budget with the average to get an overall estimate of 213 million. In the very middle of the period, Kohape Kazo and Calathil gave an estimate of official development assistance devoted to media action, which amounts to 377 million. So my sample can be estimated at 56%, which gives it some consistency. Nevertheless, I'm aware of a number of limitations. Here are, for example, where the donors of the projects come from. European countries dominate, followed by North America and international organizations. Compared to the distribution of the main donors in the sector, Germany and Japan, for example, are underrepresented. Most of their evaluations are not made public. And on the contrary, the UK is overrepresented. I did the same with the countries of implementation to see that 3 of them dominate and some others are barely or not even none assessed. But let's move on to the findings now. And first of all, as many scholars predicted it can be confirmed that sustainability is a growing concern, but not in a linear way, as you can see. The curve is made of ups and downs throughout the period. And this growing concern is less marked in Africa than elsewhere. Second finding is a confirmation of what Chekan and others wrote, the fact that sustainability is assessed less than 1 year after the end of the project. This is the case 8 times out of 10, generally speaking, and there's simply no real ex post evaluation in the sample. This is interesting since the benchmark definition of sustainability by the OECD is precisely to assess the perenniality to come of a project once it's completed. Some scholars like Lombardo and Sabetta have shown the value of defining sustainability in terms of what it is not, I mean unsustainability. Since this is somehow the nature of a meta-evaluation, I've tried to assess the evaluations and classify them into one of these four categories: good sustainability, average, weak, or non-assessed. Actually, in most cases, sustainability is just non-assessed. 3 out of 10 are assessed as weak and only 1 as good. I looked to see if there was a correlation with the budget of the projects, and indeed there is one. Sustainability is less negative in the largest budget quintile than in the lowest. It reminds us that when development interventions are evaluated for their sustainability, it is the issue of donor dependency that is also at stake. And lastly, the very sustainability of aid, as Anderson and others put it. I've used an open code to see how sustainability was qualified, if it was seen as something possible or as a kind of illusion of sustainability, as Kramer and Miguel put it. And there is a degree of hesitation here too. 24% see sustainability as something that has already emerged, but the majority as something challenging, and even 17% as something impossible. In 1992, Kidd pointed out that the term sustainability first existed in the lexicon of the bank in a narrow sense. I wanted to see if the same was true for evaluations, using one of the most commonly used classifications, namely the economic sustainability, the social one, which represents the local ownership and know-how transfer, to sum it up in a nutshell, the institutional one, which includes regulation and management issues, and the technical one, the maintenance and depreciation of equipment. The social sustainability dominates, and if we only focus on ex post evaluation, right on the slide, the economic sustainability is even more undercovered. It was also interesting to see what Berger called the cross-sector partnership that are of particular significance for what he calls sustainable journalism. I traced all the references mentioned in the evaluation and tried to classify them. Here you can see all the fields covered. What is important to note is that cross-references are quite rare. Evaluations barely quote each other or even refer to academic works. And among those mentioned, there are recurring interests like conflict or media studies and blind spots like management, for instance. And this is interesting because management, for example, is often referred to in the evaluations themselves. Another set of conclusion is that there is a combination of institutional sources and critical sources. Lately, in the same way, there's also new narratives discussing key terms like participation, for example. What is worth mentioning as well is that only 1 or 2 sources come from the Global South. On this slide, I come back to management issues which have appeared lately, especially in African evaluations, where similar trends appear with a 3 to 6 year time gap. The discourse is in 40% of the cases carried by experts working for DFID or USAID-funded projects. In the same time, other concerns remain unexplored. This is, for example, the case with corruption, often referred to, but less often linked to sustainability. Only 1% of the evaluations link corruption to sustainability explicitly. I could have raised many other issues that emerge from this meta-evaluation, but as I mentioned previously, these preliminary findings I'm sharing today were just a first glimpse before going further in the analysis.
My name is Michel Leroy, speaking from the University of Dortmund in Germany.
Please do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions on this presentation. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.